in terms of national peace and security, I would want clear examples of how we have failed in that, to protect our territorial borders and also protect the people of this country in terms of threats coming from outside the country. I think that we have done well. But on the issue of criminality and acts of violence arising from individuals, not really organized groups, from individuals and this kind of thing, I think it's also now being handled. So would that pose a charge on President Museveni's receipt of an award of this nature? I do not think so. Or rather, I would not think it would affect this. Because where do we stand as a country right now? Where do we stand? I think it's for all to see. People are moving freely. The country is peaceful. Northern Uganda is peaceful. We are struggling with recovery issues. Even western part of Uganda, there are issues with the border issues. And this is part of what this conference is going to deal with, issues of border security and border peace between Uganda and the Congo, between Uganda and Kenya, issues of the Turkana, which are not really security issues. It's about social and economic issues of people who look after cattle, and they have issues out there. Then we have issues with the northern part of Kenya, which borders Uganda, and they have direct common border with Somalia, very porous border, uncontrolled flow of small arms, which is also affecting that part of it. But the response system in this country has been good. So I think we have done well. And because we are stable and secure as a country, we are concerned about any tendency to bring conflict or bring insecurity from the neighbors. That's how I will respond to issues in South Sudan. That's why we responded to issues in Somalia, issues in the DRC, and that's why President Museveni is in charge of peace negotiations in Burundi. That's why that engagement is there. And I said earlier, that is why this outfit called the ICGLR, International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, was also created to be an overseer of this thing. And there was also a move to create a standby force. I think there have been, this was for the East African community, has been negotiations to, I think even the protocols have been signed to deal with the issues of regional peace and security. And that President Museveni has provided leadership. He deserves this award. And that's why the world, not Uganda, the world, looking at what Uganda has done, looking at what President Museveni has done, has decided that it deserves a peace award.
Okay. Yes. You had mentioned something about economic issues. I thought this would be a time to bring this in. Mm-hmm. The youth ask, it's difficult for youth to embrace peace if the environment they're in is not economically friendly. How can economic peace be established? What is the role of the state in all of this?
There will be a whole full-day track on youth employment and youth entrepreneurship in this meeting, where the youth will be engaging on those issues that you're raising. Issues of youth unemployment. Again, it's not Uganda only. It's regional. If you look at what has come from actually the ICGLR, again, there's a study that was conducted by some professors. If you look at the reports, it indicates that youth unemployment is going to be an issue for international insecurity. It's not just in Uganda, youth unemployment. In Uganda, if you look at the number of people who move into this city towards Kiseka Market and all other places, every single morning, they come to town, they have nothing to do, but they just go and wait there. Some of them don't even eat any food the whole day. This is raw material from which violent conflict can erupt. It's actually a threat to security. What is the response system? Uganda has adopted what you call private sector-led growth. There are challenges with this. There is no money to finance that private sector-led growth. There's no cheap capital from which people can have money to 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 to, to lead development in this country. So unemployment is a problem because if the private sector was engaged and flourishing, they would be the ones absorbing all this youth into employment. Because as government, the capacity is so limited. Total number of people employed in government does not exceed 350,000 people. Just 360,000 people. That's the total. That is including the army, the police, prisons, and all the nurses, everybody, schools, I mean the teachers, does not exceed 350,000 people. So the payroll for the government is around 350,000 people. So the solution does not lie with government employment. Because even if you are to fire everybody in government and say you replace them with a new lot of people, that will still be 350,000 people. The number of youth unemployed are way beyond 350,000 people. So the solution does not lie with government employment. The solution lies with private sector entrepreneurship, building up, enlarging the economic base, creating employment. That is the way to go. That's why the government now is focusing on things that will facilitate the enterprise growth. One is infrastructure in terms of road network. I think the focus has been good. In fact, the focus has been in the national grid has been so good to an extent that we have even not invested much in the community roads, community access roads, and the district roads. And that now is affecting the lower category of people who live in the villages. But the investment in the super infrastructure road network in the country has been tremendous to try and facilitate movement of goods and things like that for helping the private sector to move forward. Two is issues of power, electricity. If you saw how much flight there was when we had load shedding, when industries had to flee, and when industries leave, when factories leave, they leave with the opportunities for employment. They create unemployment. When industries are not doing well, companies are not profiting much, they downscale on labor. And when they do that, they create more unemployment. The unemployment situation in Uganda is mixed because there's the issue of unemployment itself, people who are qualified for jobs, but they do not get jobs. There is the problem of underemployment, where people who are qualified to do jobs are employed to the capacity not of theirs. Many of them do part-time jobs, but they're employed. They should have been fully employed, but they are in partial employment. And then we have a category of people, a third category of people, who are unemployable. Whatever they do, they can never be employed because they do not have the necessary qualification to even engage in any formal employment. So the solution to this is the rural approach to development. If our rural areas were engaging fully in economic activities, if the support to agriculture was tremendous, if tourism was heavily supported, it would absorb a lot of this population from the cities and towns and take them to the countryside. The land is there, the capacity is there. How do we move people away, attract people in the villages? And that's why I keep saying that the dream to create something called Operation Wealth Creation was the right dream. The problem is how it has been conceptualized and the implementation infrastructure that has been given for it. It is lacking in many ways because that is what could have gone and changed the rural communities. Two things we can focus. One, increase savings for this country. Savings about 15%, only about 15% of people are saving. I don't know how many of us in this room are saving. It's a big problem. There's not just little, because there's nothing to save, basically. Because the economy is not doing that well, I think. That could be the problem. Two, we have a very big informal sector. In the United States of America, the informal sector is between 2 to 3%. In Uganda, it's more than 86%, the informal sector. These are people who are not directly engaged with the economy. They benefit from the economy without directly contributing to it. Nobody knows that they exist. Nobody knows that they're doing business. The tax revenue people cannot get them. So how do we increase savings in this country? Secondly, how do we reduce the informal sector? Can we set targets that in the next 3 years we want to achieve a 5% increase in saving and probably a 10% reduction in the informal sector? Can we set these targets? And that's where I believe Operation Wealth Creation would have directly engaged in these things to find these solutions. Because if this had happened, more people getting into formal kind of businesses, more people getting money actually that is bankable, like that, they would be coming to the formal sector. And like that, the employment situations would change. Like that, the amount of savings would help the banks reduce on interest rates and make people not struggle for short-term borrowing, which is based on mainly savings from people, and make the bigger people focus on medium range and long-term financing, which should be arising from the development of our capital or infrastructure. So we have a complex set of things and variables that are affecting the growth of this economy. The resilience systems of the economy is not that good because the financial support system is weak. There are sections of youth that have completely not managed anything. But in this same economy, there are youth who have made tremendous progress. There's this primary kid who has a school is in this place, Chebando. The boy is in primary school, but he has a school. And I don't know how he did it, but he has it. The other time we were going for the Tulambule in northern Uganda. We found a man who has created a resort. He calls it, what is it? The Guru something resort. Using very local materials. Grass thatch huts. And he has built up, he's employing about 17 people. But I'm telling you, you have to book 2 months in advance to get space in that place. And he's a young man. He was here in Kampala. Things were not working. I said, for me, I'm going back. And he went and set up this thing. The only tin roof building is used about 20, 30 iron sheets to make the superstructure that houses the office, the other place. The rest are grass thatch, local material. And he's making money. For every grass thatch hut, he charges $30. And the Bazungus are competing to get in there. So there are opportunities out there that people are getting. That's why this conference is talking about youth entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is about seeing a problem, creating a solution to it. As you solve that problem, people respond to it because you're easing their problem. Now, the other hotels and resorts are expensive. So these people prefer cheap places, ordinary places, where they eat traditional food, because that's what the boy is doing. There is no oil in that for cooking. There are no onions. It cooks traditional, actually, food. And even those who are not resident there, the place is packed like this. I was in shock when I went there. And then he organizes a local cultural troupe. Every evening he offers entertainment of Bwala dance, raga, and these people are just in the skies. This really low-grade place, but the boy is making a lot of money. So it is these small things. If we could all do these small little things, because Ugandans like grandeur, grand big things, grand ideas, and yet the trick is actually in the starting small and growing. So these are examples of young people who have broken through, and these cases are many in this country. So that's what we need to interest the youth in. Let's not wait too much for a solution from elsewhere. Your father has land, maybe an acre. What can you do with it? You have family land in the village somewhere. What can you do with it? With the knowledge you have seen, with what you have seen on the internet and all these things, what can you do with what you have? Because the solution is not beyond what you have. You can never have a solution beyond what you have. Your solution is within what you have.
Let's talk about the people who are supposed to or are expected to attend this conference. Somebody asks what kind of people are expected to attend this conference. But furthermore, there's a question. Are members of the opposition welcome to take part in the discussions at the Global Peace Leadership Conference?
I don't know what the opposition means, because global peace is global peace. There is no opposition to it, because the opposition to that would be global war. So if you support peace, it doesn't matter what 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 uh, what political opinion you hold, because that is why the main theme for Global Peace Foundation is one family under God. In Uganda, in the Ugandan context, you'd borrow the South African term of Ubuntu. You are because I am. I am because you are. We are one. And I like saying the little divisions that we have, the parties, the religion, the tribal things, are not deeper. Those divisions are not deeper than the blood that connects us as human beings. One family under God. We are connected. It doesn't matter what God you worship. It's God. So we're one family under God. And that's what the main theme of Global Peace Foundation is. And so there's no opposition to issues of peace. I don't think so. I don't think so. So all are invited and all are welcome. Kind of people attending, you have presidents are coming. Many of them have confirmed. I think President of Rwanda is coming, President Uhuru is coming. They're sending a prime minister from Tanzania. Former president of Zanzibar, Amani Karume, Dr. Amani Karume, is actually a co-host. He will be here. I think he's arriving already tomorrow or on Monday. He's arriving on Monday. So at the high level, and there's going to be also a presidential session where the presidents will speak to issues of peace. There's also going to be a signing of a peace declaration by those top leaders, which afterwards, all those who will be there will assign in support for world peace. You have the founder. He spoke in Manila, and I was there, and he had this expression. He said, if one person has a dream, it will remain a dream. But if that dream is shared by many, it stops being a dream. It becomes a reality. And he said, our dream is for global peace. And if we can make everybody join that movement for global peace, it will stop being a dream and will become a reality. So from the dream for global peace to the reality of global peace, where we treat each other as equal and where we share what we have with respect.
Okay. Let's talk about the 10th Parliament of Uganda.
Yes.
How do we position this parliament as a key player in peace and security? And will this be effective?
The Parliament of Uganda, under the Constitution, is supposed to make laws for the good governance, peace of this country. So whatever we do, the call is to make peace at the center of our engagements. The motions we debate, the petitions that come and how we handle them, the laws that come and how we handle them, the questions we ask when laws are brought, what we call the pre-legislative scrutiny processes, the questions we ask, will this law enhance peace, promote peace for this country, or will it cause chaos? And I'm sure you have known some laws which were suspected to be promoting other values, how they were resisted, and eventually. The budget that we pass, does it support this belief in peace? That is balance, that is reduced tension, because it's all about making everybody feel accommodated within the system. So where you have an interest and you know that that interest is properly represented, you have no issue to create tension. But where you feel left out, then you have a problem. And that's why part of the discussion will be on identity-based conflicts. The discussion will be there. I think there's a whole long session on identity-based conflicts and solutions to them. And this meeting is about options for peace. What other options are available for us to achieve peace? Yes.
Okay. There is a question about Uganda's sustainable model for peace and development in line with Uganda's foreign policy. Maybe you just broadly talk about that.
Well, I think our foreign policy, we have lived it, so we can just cite examples of what we have been able to do. Our commitment as a country to regional peace and security, and therefore world peace, is really, really, really illustrated by what we have been doing. Our deployment of troops in Somalia, the way we engaged in South Sudan to stop the massacres that could have taken place in South Sudan, how we have gotten involved in Burundi to try and find solutions to what we need to do to promote regional peace and security. All these things move to illustrate the case that this country's foreign policy is to the promotion of regional peace and security, and therefore world peace in turn. So that's where we are. So our foreign policy is based on these fundamental principles of mutual coexistence and the promotion of peace, and letting everybody realize and live their potential. That is where we are, and that's what we try to promote.
Thank you. We have a next question. What is the youngest age that you believe a Ugandan can become an influential advocate for change on this planet as concerns peace and development? Through what avenues would that be?
The youngest age, I don't know what that means.
I think at what age is now ripe for person to rise up and start to take front engagement?
You know, that's a I don't know how to rate that question. Some people at 50, they are not yet engaging issues of peace. Some people at 12, they already are. If you recall, the Kadogos, at what age were they engaged in war for liberation of this country? If you recall, the Lord's Resistance Army, which children were abducted, at what age were they engaged in the promotion of war? So age is just a number. The question is, at what stage do you get directly involved in your life? At what stage, you, the person, would you get exposed and involved in issues of peace? So I wouldn't put a number. Now, there's no magic age, there's no magic number. I would just say it is the situations. In the 60s, there are children who became heads of families. In the north, there are children who became heads of families. 20-year-old, 15-year-old, 13-year-old, all of a sudden becoming the head of the family. So is age material? I don't think so. I don't think it's about age. I think it's about at what point did you get confronted with the issue where you needed to apply the issues that can resolve the situation that you are in. And as somebody said, there are two important days in our lives. The first day is when you were born. The second day is when you discover why you were born. Two important days. The day you die is not important because after that you don't know a thing. So those are the two important days. So at what stage do you discover the reason you were born to be peace agent? I think that's it. Change agent to make things better. Peace agent to try and solve tendencies that could arise, lead to conflict.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I have about 3 questions from the youth, and the first one goes as, what reaction do you hope to get from the Uganda's youth after the global peace is done? And someone else asked, in a country where a majority of young people are young people, what role have youth played in peace and security in Uganda? Why isn't this conference youth-centered?
The conference is very youth-centered. In fact, if you look at the program, I hope I have a copy here. The program is it's very youth centered. If you look, for example, at the wait a minute. Sub-theme 5, which will be meeting at the Royal Palm Hall. It's youth leadership, entrepreneurship, and service. And all this, you see, it's all supposed to all move to deliver on the issue of peace, because the overall theme is moral and innovative leadership, new models for sustainable peace and development. So how is the youth, its leadership, its moral foundation of its leadership, how is it going? It's just not about a moral issue. How innovative are the youth going to be in terms of engaging in enterprise development, and also issues of service? What kind of service is the youth prepared to engage into? So at the Royal Palm, on the 1st, the whole day, you will have a co-running session, a concurrent session on issues of youth. So youth is the center. On the 31st, all the academic issues and all this other engagement will be at Makerere University Business School in Nakawa. They are hosting a debate on realizing your potential as a youth. Big Dream Youth Symposium. That's what it is. So, because the belief of Global Peace Foundation is that for you to have a generation that upholds principles of peace, you need a youth that is trained to do that. Because otherwise, in 10 years, you still have the same kind of situations. But if you engage the current youth at this moment, in 10 years, 20 years, they'll be the leaders. If they have picked these principles, then they'll be the ones to be able to articulate and live by them when they are now in positions of leadership.
Interesting, because there was a question here. We have had peace for a while now, but the youth still have no jobs. Small business are drowning in taxes, but still have some people enjoying tax subsidies. Does the government have a plan for we the youth? Is the Youth Employment Fund still there?
The Youth Livelihood Fund is there. The youth that, again, look at that, the Youth Livelihood Fund. Karamoja. In Karamoja, they took this money and returned the money before the year ended. They took the money, used it, made their profits, paid back in 9 months. So when they paid back and they said, we have already paid back the money. I said, no, you need a whole year to pay back. So they didn't know what to do. But this particular set of youth in Karamoja, it's in the report, took this money, used it, benefited from it, made profit, and paid back before the timeline provided by them. And yet you have in other places where the youth have simply failed, where even recovering a little percentage of the money has failed, because money became available to a group of young people who had no enterprise skills in their mind. They just brought themselves together voluntarily for one purpose, to have access to that money. But the purpose was for them to consume the money. Now, if you eat the seed, then you have killed the crop. In fact, we have a saying in Acholi that you are as big-headed as the person who eats seeds. We take Kodi. That's bold big-headedness. The person who eats seeds. Shameless. No, so there's a category of youth who have accessed the Youth Livelihood Program. And instead of using it as a seed, they use it as the fruit. They ate it. So it never generated any more money. And they are unable to pay back. Now they're on the run. But this money has been made available to them. So that's why part of this conference is focusing on youth entrepreneurship. How do you develop this potential? How do you develop this capacity to create enterprise and live off it? I gave you examples of young people. The guy in Amoro, I think he's now 23 years old. He started when he was about 19. Off school, he stayed in Kampala for, after school, he stayed in Kampala for 3-4 months. Things were not making sense. He went back. I want people to go and see what this young man is doing. You know, it's a place you cannot believe but here the man is making money. I think he's bought himself a car now. He's doing very well, and he's very young. And there are many others like this. And there's another young man who is now a whole multimillionaire in this country. He's connected himself to all the presidents of Africa. They all know him. He's very young. He's going to be 26, 27 now. You mentioned that name to President Kagame, he knows. You mentioned that name. How did he do it? Enterprise. Entrepreneurial ability to pick something and move with it. These capabilities are there among young people. And like I'm saying, there are people who are 50 and 60 who have even failed to do these things. Some of them have lived off this employment of government, and they get out of the employment of government and they have nothing to show of it. And yet they've been employed for 30 years, 40 years. So employment may not be the solution. Just look around the country. People who have been employed 20 years, 30 years. How many of them can say they have succeeded? So is employment really the issue? No, the issue is entrepreneurship. How do you make 1 shilling become 2 shillings? Is the issue. The little you have, how do you multiply it? I think that is the issue. What do you do? What systems do you create? What enterprise do you engage in that will make 1 shilling become 1.5 shillings in 6 months, in a year? That is where we should be focusing. Because employment, there are youth who are employing youth. So why is there a set of youth employing other youth? So if we can all change this, make this mind shift, that we do not have to seek employment because we can be employers ourselves. And this is the message that we need to set across instead of this laid back position that we are waiting to be employed. There might be a solution. Unemployment itself, the pressure of being unemployed itself, should be the impetus that should drive you to discover what you can do to earn money.
Okay. Let's talk about something else that is topical international, and that is refugees. The question is, with the rising number of refugees each passing day, what solutions are being put in place to curb this?
You see, refugees are symptoms. So the question you're asking is, how do we deal with the symptom? I think the fundamental question is, how do you stop this situation altogether? Why do people become refugees? A refugee is a person that leaves country A and goes to country B. Reasons being, in search of 1, security, and in search of 2, opportunity. Which means, in country A, where that person lived and belonged and is a national, there is no opportunity, or there is threat to life, and that is insecurity. So causes this movement, because movement between people is as old as human beings have been. Except now, when you move across borders, these terms come to play. So, when people run away as a result of war, this is what we are discussing. Do we need war, or do we all need to work to peace? If there is peace, would South Sudanese be running from Sudan to come to Uganda? They would not. If we had worked and carefully taken care of the environment, would the harsh environment force other people to drive cattle from one part of the country to another in search of pasture? No, it would not. So the solution is not in how you deal with the issue of refugees. The solution is how you stop the phenomenon altogether by making them feel secure where they live and therefore no need to migrate to another country, and having an environment that is sound for them, and having opportunities that make them engage, that does not now make them force themselves to go to another country. Look at the youth that are dying in the Mediterranean Sea from Africa. Look at the youth that are being enslaved. They arrest you. You are trying to go to Europe. They catch you. You become a slave. They use you as a slave. Because they have failed to find opportunities in the countries where they are, they now try to seek opportunities elsewhere. So that's why I'm saying two things. Make the opportunities available to young people for them to engage. Stop war. Avoid conflict. Because those are drivers that create issues of refugees. Yes.
Now, I think this is somebody who's interested in police issues. They say, according to statistics, female police officers are 7,700 out of the total 44,000, about 900. That's about 17%. Would this be a reason for women killings and kidnaps? What can be done to amplify the entry of women into the force?
We don't have conscription in this country. We don't force people. It's a very voluntary thing. Now, if that is the percentage of female people who have voluntarily gone to service with the police, I don't know how else you can how else you can change that statistic. Probably there could be, I don't know what, a campaign. I don't know. We like campaigns. We like words like sensitization. We like words like mobilization. But it's a very voluntary thing because there are risks involved. You go to train, you start bearing arms, and that puts you in harm's way. How many people are prepared to take that risk? Because you're not going to force people. And I don't know whether there is vacancy in the police. As of now, I don't know. Because when the police feel that they need more officers, they'll come and recruit. And they recruit from those who have reported for recruitment. They take you for trials. If you don't pass the preliminary test, you go home. Physicals. I think the first 2 weeks is just, they put you under so much pressure. So if you cannot bear the pressure, you leave. But if you can bear the pressure, you continue to the next stage. So could it be that a lot of the females who go there fail to bear the pressure? I don't think so. I think it is just that many of them do not feel the drive to go and join the police. I'm sure the same thing would apply for the military. I'm sure the same thing would apply for the prison, all the uniformed service in this country. I think the percentages could be the same in the army, in the military, and equally in the police.
Okay, thank you. I think we're coming to an hour now. Let me wrap this up with a question. Who is a moral and innovative leader, according to you?
According to me, the importance of those phrases, moral and innovative, they are description of what a leader, a young person and a leader should have. Moral. If you ask the question of moral, what are we talking about? Because there's a tendency towards the opposite. So you're asking people to become moral, to practice those principles. These days, the sociologists have discovered a term called moral disengagement. They call it moral disengagement. And what does it mean? Moral disengagement is a solution that people find in explaining away their fault in responding to moral issues, their fault in obliging and practicing moral issues. And what is the first example? Something is wrong morally, but you do it, and then you justify it. There's a justification for it. That's moral disengagement. I did it because it was wrong, but I did it because I had orders from superior authorities. You know it's wrong, but you go ahead and do it. Now, each time we sit and thank people in offices, we forget to appreciate the pain that the little people are forced to go through, where they are forced to do things they don't believe is right for them to do. That is moral disengagement. And the question is, how are we going to be able to stand up on those principles and say, this is wrong, I will not do it, instead of seeking the explanation and probably being satisfied with the explanation that, anyway, I could not have done it if I was not forced to do it. The other one is, I did it because everybody is doing it. It is wrong, but your explanation, everybody was doing it. You go and steal in a crowd and say, everybody was stealing. Stealing is wrong. But the justification you have is that everybody was doing it. Is that a good explanation? I don't think so. Be the change agent. Be the other voice. That's what it is saying. If everybody is doing the wrong thing, be the one that will make the call. Say, you guys, is it right? I don't think so. Then people they will stop. So to what extent are we going to evolve leaders that are able to stop the crowd? The crowd mentality, everything that is being done by the crowd is right, because everybody is doing it. How are we going? And several other illustrations of what moral disengagement is. That is why the emphasis is on moral leadership. The foundation is moral. We all know what is wrong. Everybody has what they call the id and the ego. What is wrong in your mind, that battles in the human being, and somebody said, the one that triumphs is the one you feed most. If you feed your id, which is the evil bit of your person, more, you become an evil person. The question is now, how do we feed the good part, the other side, the silent voice, to come out and control leadership? That is why the issue of moral leadership. Innovative leadership. We can no longer use the 100-year-old solutions to deal with current problems. Things have shifted so much. So it's not what we know that will help us change things. It's what we are able to create, which is all about innovation. Are we going to deal with the current problems with new solutions? They have called it paradigm shift. They have called it thinking outside the box. All terms have been created to try and explain why we need to be innovative in dealing with situations that are evolving so quickly. Look at the phones you are holding. The capacity of those phones, you don't even use 1% of it, not even 0.01% of what the capacities are. But they are changing, even those, they are changing them so quickly. The question is, innovation is driving the world. For leaders to take charge and be fully in control of situations, they have to be innovative. So that's why the emphasis on innovation is there. So moral and innovative leadership. And there's an aspect of service. How do you apply the moral principles, the innovative principles, and deliver service? As young people who are becoming leaders, as old people who are in leadership positions, how do we embrace these principles to make the world a better place for everybody?
Thank you. I think you could wrap up with giving us a brief on the days of the conference and the meetings that will actually take place.
Yes, like I said already, the meeting will take, overall the activity will take 4 days. The first day, 31st, the activity is supposed to be at Makerere University Business School, and that is one you are calling Dream Big Youth Symposium, which is optional. Anybody can go, but it's part of the build-up to this conference. Then the actual days of the conference are 2, that is 1st and the 2nd of August. On the 3rd, there are optional programs, and the outlines are there, but the key days of the conference are 2. Now, on day 1, the main theme of the conference is moral and innovative leadership, new models for sustainable peace and development. They have been broken down to sub-themes, which will constitute the different parallel sessions that will be taking place. So, sub-theme 1, which will be a parallel session, all this will be taking place concurrently. There'll be about 6 of them happening in different places in Munyonyo, in different rooms. The purpose is that all of them will culminate into the main theme of the conference. So the first sub-theme is transforming education. And here you have speakers with the issues of education, knowledgeable people who have created transformational system for doing education thing. This will be in Speak Ballroom. The session runs from first there will be the formal session that will end about 11 o'clock. Then these parallel sessions will start from 11 o'clock to about 1 o'clock, and some will go up to about 3 o'clock. So theme 1, sub-theme 1 is transforming education. That will be in the Speak Ballroom. Sub-theme 2, interfaith peace building and prevention of identity-based conflicts. I talked about identity-based conflicts here. How we get to the issue of there should be not us against them. It should just be us, because the us and the them division is not deeper than the blood that connects the us and the them. So we should celebrate what unites us instead of what actually divides us. So that will be in sub-theme 2. Interfaith peace building and prevention of identity-based conflict. That will be in Shena Hall. Sub-theme 3 is Peace Begins in the Home, Women-Led Initiative for Peace and Development. That will be a whole discussion. The Speaker of Parliament will be presiding about some of the sessions, and it will be in the Albert Hall in the Speak Resort, Munyonyo. So those of you who are interested in this particular issue, you would be going to Albert Hall to deal with issues of Peace Begins in the Home, Women-Led Initiative for Peace and Development. Sub-theme 4, which will be in Ebony Hall in Munyonyo, Commonwealth Resort. Entrepreneurship and investment as a catalyst for peace and development. So this is where those of you who have views about what we need to do to get a little more money in the pot, and therefore remove the tendency to destroy, because if you have something to be destroyed, you not engage in things that can lead to the destruction of what you already have. So that will be in Ebony Hall. All these sessions, parallel sessions, will begin at 11 o'clock. Some will end at 1, some will go even after lunch to 3 until 4 o'clock. So please bear that in mind. So sub-theme 5 will take place at the Royal Palm Hall, still in Munyonyo. Youth leadership, entrepreneurship, and service. That is a whole discussion. And in all these, you have people who are coming from all over the world to be sharing in the discussions. You will have chairpersons who will be leading the discussions, and then you have speakers. Sometimes some are 4, some are 5, some are even up to 6, coming out with the different country experiences to share in those particular areas. And then there will be general discussions in all those things. That will be at the Royal Palm Royal Palm Hall. Sub-theme 6, parliamentary and global leadership. It will be at the Emerald Hall. It is the parliamentary and global leadership round table. It will be at the Emerald Hall. I'll be chairing one of the sessions myself, and see aspects of which can be dealt with in terms of parliamentary and global leadership. We will have members of parliament from Kenya, from Korea, from the US. All of them will be there and sharing experiences, and of course there will be general discussion. And this is where I expect my members to be in attendance in large numbers to see. Now day 2, that will close day 1. Of course there will be lunch, and there will be also dinner in the evening of the day. Day 2, they'll set up the huge tents, the marquees. There'll be 2 of them, 1 for lunch, but 1 for this particular session. And that will be the highlight of this will be the high-level presidential plenary. And this is where all the big guys will be there. The presidents, prime ministers, all of them will be in that meeting. And President Museveni will be making statements. President Kagame will be speaking. President Uhuru Kenyatta will be speaking. And eventually they'll also sign what we call the peace declaration, which is being carefully crafted based on what will be discussed. And also the formal closing ceremony will also be there that afternoon, after which you will have the dinner. There will also be exhibitions after the formal closure. There will be exhibitions which will be in the gardens. There will be business meetings. There will be tours. You will arrange for tours and things like this. All the things will be taking place. Day 3 is optional. And on day 3, you have community peace building workshop, which is in Jacaranda Hall. Workshop on school entrepreneurship models. These are optional engagements. It's now after the event on the 3rd day when everybody is not there formally. Workshop on school entrepreneurship models, that will be in the Mahogany Hall. And there will be, even this one will still have very able people. For example, Dr. Tony Devine will be chairing the one on workshop and school entrepreneurship models at Mahogany Hall. That is on August 3rd. So these are things you needed to know, and you have speakers from like Daniel Juma, Executive Director of Global Peace. He comes from Kenya. You have Diana Kwamboka from Kenya also. And you have Kafero Azizi, founder of Kafero Foundation in Uganda. You have Lydia Tumuhaire, National Planning Manager, Educate Uganda. All these people will be engaging together and give you options on how you'll be able to do this. So that will be it. The formal days of the conference will be 2, 1st and 2nd. The 3rd day is optional, where you have these 2 workshops. The 1st day is the Dream Big Youth Symposium, which will take place at MOVES. So the message is we need to join hands to build peace, because the absence of peace, those who have experienced it, the absence of peace is something you don't want to experience. And we urge Ugandans and people of the world to come together so that the dream for regional peace, the dream for world peace, the dream for global peace becomes a reality. And we are all actors in this movement for global peace and regional peace. Let's play our role. Let's put positive energy into whatever we will do to find solutions, even where there seems to be none. Solutions that are peaceful, solutions that help build humanity.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Does anybody have a comment, maybe?
Yeah, there's a popular question online about President Honorable Narendra's visit. So people have asked the question, does it inform the theme? Does it impact the theme of the conference? Do you learn something from his visit?
Prime Minister Modi's visit was not part of this. Was not part of this. It coincided in a good way. Sometimes God works in strange ways. If you listen to his speech, which I did yesterday, I think it was a bold declaration for Africa-India relationship towards one thing: building peace and developing people. That, in summary, is what he's saying: building peace and developing people. And developing people is about developing infrastructure, developing health infrastructure, education infrastructure, and everything else that will help build humanity. So, is it connected? It's connected in spirit, but in terms of protocols and meeting, it's not part of the Global Peace Leadership Conference. It is not. But what he said can feed those who listen to, can come and carry those discussions forward, because we're looking for partners for peace, partners for development. And the Prime Minister comes and makes this bold statement about how we can move this dream forward of developing people. Yes.
Okay. Okay, I must thank you all. Thank you for signing up. I hope we're trending. I think this discussion will continue and with everybody else. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
The people who have the bow ties as well.
I'll first take that one.
At least I didn't leave my photograph at home. One with the bow tie guys. Yes. I never see you always.
But we meet often.
We meet often? On
On Twitter.
No.